on. Deputy Jonathan O'Brien, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. At the outset, can I say that there's a certain irony being lectured by partitionist politicians on the importance of country. Naturally, I'll be supporting this motion tonight because I, like tens of thousands of fellow citizens, has lost all confidence in this government's ability to carry out the mandate which you were given in February of last year. I don't have confidence in this government to deal with unemployment. I don't have confidence in this government to stem the tide of emigration, particularly when ministers of this government describe it as a lifestyle choice. I don't have confidence in this government to protect the most vulnerable in our society, and I don't have confidence in this government to allow the elderly of this state who have given a lifetime of service to live their final years with dignity and free from stress and financial worries. And on the 10th of November last, the people of this state voted to enshrine the rights of children into the Constitution, in what this government described as an important, if not one of the most important, results of any referendum. But just a short 4 weeks later, this same government, who talked the talk about children's rights, failed to walk the walk when it came to Budget 2013. You launched an all-out attack against children in this budget. And in doing so, you continue the failed and bankrupt economic policies of those who went before you, who also happily targeted those in society who don't have, while protecting and shielding the wealthy and the golden circles in Irish society. Cuts to child benefit, back to school clothing and footwear allowance, not to mention a despicable cut to the respite care grant, are just 3 such cuts contained in Budget 2013. And every day since I came into this chamber, when I was elected as a Teachta Dáil, I've heard this Taoiseach and various ministers point out, and rightly point out, the hypocrisy and the double standards of the current Fianna Fáil position in opposing issues such as taxing the family home, or increases in student contribution fees, or a tax on carers. But what this government is doing is exactly what Fianna Fáil did when it was in power. And what Fianna Fáil is now currently doing is exactly what that government did in opposition. And if one is a hypocrite, then you're all hypocrites in my eyes, because you're doing what they did in government and they're doing what you did in opposition. This government was elected on a mandate of change, a mandate of renewed hope, a fresh start, or to use the words of the Taoiseach himself, on the promise of bringing about a democratic revolution. And of course you were also elected on the back of various promises and pledges you made to the Irish people. But what of those promises now? What of the promise not to cut child benefit, or the promise not to increase the student contribution fee, or to protect children or those with disabilities? What of those promises? Well, I'll tell you what of those promises. They're out of sight, stuffed down the back of the cushy ministerial couches that people like Gilmore, Rabbitte, Burton, Quinn and Howlin now enjoy resting their backside on, and who so desperately wanted them that they sold their soul. They betrayed the people who entrusted their vote and their hope in them, and all in exchange for a lousy blue shirt and a hefty pension. But what of the citizens who trusted and believed in those promises which were made by Labour and Fine Gael before the last election?
Deputy, you have 1 minute.
Okay. What do they get for entrusting this government with their hopes and their dreams, or for believing that this government will be different and less cynical than the previous one? All they are now left with is empty political rhetoric about how this government are making tough decisions in the interests of the state and its people. Well, maybe someone from this government can tell the carers who were outside Leinster House yesterday and who will be outside Leinster House again tomorrow how tough a decision it actually was to cut €325 from the respite grant and not take a brass cop off from your own salaries. How tough a decision was that, Sean? Maybe someone from this government can explain the comments of Joan Burton last week when she told people after she cutting their back to school footwear and clothing allowance to shop around. In all fairness, how tough a decision is it for those parents who are going to struggle next July to send their children back to education? I'll finish up on this. I have no confidence in this government, and if there was a shred of decency left on the Labour backbenches, then they would stand by the carers, the sick, the disabled, and the most vulnerable of this state in supporting this motion, because if they fail to do so, they're standing by the Labour leadership whose only interest is self-interest.